How's it all, you beautiful people who are watching us? Damn it! This is MMN65 to you all, and welcome back to the channel. Now, guys, today's video is much different, and no, this isn't merch. I don't do merch, not yet. But today's video is based off the channel known as. Well, it's basically based off For Honor. Everybody knows For Honor. It is the video game. It is the video game based off the knights, the Vikings, and the samurai battling out to death, to the death, murder, suicide, killing. No suicide. This isn't about suicide. But anyway, I have no idea why I'm padding here. But anyway, guys, I have to actually wear a jacket because I'm actually standing outside. It is cold as fuck. But anyway, we're gonna keep going with this video. Now, I watched the two channels who did this one, For Honor. Now, a lot of them has done it, but two channels actually got me here and there. And it was actually one that really got me on the roof. Called Shadiversity, I think. He's basically, you guys have seen him on his channel. He has glasses, black hair. He did a video where he did real sword versus 3D printed sword. You'll know him if you just type in that. What he did on his video is he said about a lot of things about the knight, and even in his video, he did say he didn't know a lot about Japanese culture, about the samurai, and that he didn't know, but he gave the win to the medieval knights. Now, I'm not going to go into the Vikings because I know they won't win. They were primitive, they weren't very intelligent, and they would have gotten killed easily. But I will go into this. What that guy said could actually be wrong. Now, what he was going on, and actually I have an example. This is a replica of a... No, this is not a toy. This is not a toy. This was actually made by Cold Steel in South Africa. It is made of a... It's made of the same type of material that is used for the batons, the older fabric batons for the police, and it's a very tough fabric. This thing can break a cinder block with one strike. Maybe even cut through it. We're not going to go into that, but this is a replica of a... I think it's it's a replica of a short sword. A very short sword, but it's got a two-handed one. Now, what he was talking about was, back then, they didn't have the long sword. They had a one-handed blade and a shield. Now, he is true. I have dabbled on. It was a short sword with a long-ish handle. With a longish blade. Damn it, I called it a handle. That was stupid. Sorry, I'm trying not to shake. But, basically, with a longish blade, like this. Double-edged, lorned tip, and was able for thrusting, slashing, and blocking. This was the type of sword that was used. Not this type of sword, but it was a short-handed one. I'm going to try and get a long sword replica of this. But anyway, I'm going to go back to that. They also had what was known as... They also had what was known as the... it was called a kite shield. The kite shield, as he was saying it, it was a very tough shield. It would actually embody the whole person to keep them protected from arrow shots and all that, and protect them at all times. A lot of people who would actually use a shield like this would usually be most knights, even knights who used a flail. If you do not know what a flail is a handed weapon which the handle is covered with a lever to give it grip, a chain, and it was an orb with either spikes or it was actually points with no spikes. It was actually mostly Dame. How do I say it? Sorry. Damn it, the cold is getting to me. But anyway, if going into it, the flail was known even in medieval times as both dangerous to the user and to the enemy, because if you're not trained into it, you could get killed by it. Killed by your own weapon. That's going to be on your gravestone. But if you were very trained in it, you were able to beat it. Able to use it and take out a lot of enemies. A lot of them also used spears in their weapons as both javelins and spears on horseback. Now I do understand. Now I do believe him on horseback, and that the samurai and the knights did use horseback as a way of fighting. They are skilled in this and that. But let me just educate him in Japanese. Now, I have been researching about the Japanese. I have researched the future Japan of today, the back then Japan. If we're going into the samurai, let's go into it right. Now, what he said was the katana was heavy, and this is actually not true. It's based on the different katana. There were 3 different types of katana. There was there was a long katana. The samurai usually used 2 different types of katana. I don't have a long one, but I do have this one. Now this is a replica that I got. It's made out of wood. It's actually been warped a few times. I've trained with this type of weapon. It's very light, but it is an example. Now, the samurai used 2 different types of katana when in combat. They used a long katana and a short katana, kind of like this. This is a replica of a short katana. The long katana was used for outside combat, for, let's say, more open areas, while the short katana was made for much enclosed areas. Like, long katana would be used like out in the open, like fighting against multiple enemies, while the short katana was made for if somebody were trying to assassinate him at his own home, or he was trying to assassinate someone. Now, with the Japanese, the katana was light to them. If you're in the samurai's culture and their training, they were trained to use this weapon for more than 5 years, even craft their own blade. There were many stories of either 3 things. 1, the blade was passed down from family member to family member to family member of the samurai culture. 2, they had to, as they're training, they had to design their own katana. They had to design it on their own. They had to sheath the metal, and basically a katana is layered metal. It's layered steel, layered onto each other. That's why it's the deadliest weapon of today, because it's basically, it's layered steel, but it's like getting slashed with paper, tough paper. It literally is that strong. Anyway, as I was saying, they would have to design it on their own, sharpen it on their own, and train themselves with it on their own. Create their own god, and I can't remember what this is. The part over here, I lost this part when I was training, but that's fine. Or the lost one that is actually quite very known in the samurai culture of Japan is that a marksman, basically a blacksmith of the Japanese culture, who has been training this for his whole life on building a katana, would build a katana and give it to them. A classic example would be in mythical stories about Muramasa, who created his Muramasa blades. Who basically, yes, I will tell you a whole story about it right now if you want. Not, I'm just gonna do it. Muramasa created what was known as the Muramasa blades for the army of the Japanese. Now, the myth about it is that he would actually sell parts of his soul to the devil to create each individual blade. And the reason why it was so deadly is because the whole thing was, once the blade was drawn from its sheath, it was told by some Japanese that it would control the person's body and actually would only be put back into its sheath once it's drawn blood. But let's go past that. And they were even given, some were even given a blade called the wakizashi, which was basically a shorter version of the katana, and shorter than even the shortest katana. Some people even said a short katana like this is known as a wakizushi, a very short katana that was light and very nimble. Now, if we were even, and this wasn't the only weapon, and also a long bow, everybody knows that. But those were not the only two weapons he used in combat. There was also called the kanabo. The kanabo was also used by the Japanese. Sorry, sun glaring. I don't have an example, but imagine a long baseball bat. But it's actually the bat itself is curved into a octagon or hexagon like shape. Handle is normal round, but the bat itself is hexagon or octagon. Now, the one thing with that is that it was also embedded with orbs. First, the bat is made out of the toughest. Uh, During that time, it was made of the toughest wood that was able to take on the most damage. And they put in each individual side, there were rumors going around that it was either 8 or up to 10 of these steel like orbs embedded inside of it to make it stronger. They have been required as actually the strongest weapon because it was able to break swords, shields, and even armor. It was basically a baseball bat on roids. This was able to break katanas like they were nothing, and katanas are one of the strongest and one of the most impossible blades to break over your knee. If you could break a katana over your knee, go ahead. You're just going to lose money. And plus, it's going to be impossible. A katana is a very delicate weapon and it's a very deadly weapon. If I'm wrong about the katana being harder to break in that, I do apologize. But this was a weapon that could literally kill a person. Now, let's say a knight is standing there. He's got the kite shield. Kite shield is very tough, but proven that by the Kanabo's been able to even break through the shield of a Viking, and those shields are thick. Now, compare that, it would be able to break the shield easily. Now, let's say a knight's blocking this attack. Not only is it going to break the shield, the Kanabo, it's going to break his arm, and he's not going to be able to use his arm in combat. He's only going to have one arm, which is his sword arm. Now, that's not the only thing. Then we have the spear that he uses. It's not like a typical spear. The spear actually has basically it's a spear-like weapon. It has the long staff like a spear, but the head itself is actually a curved-like weapon, unlike a spear, which is an arrowhead-like weapon. Now, this type of weapon has been able to cut through the skull with one slash, cutting through it with damaging results, and even been able to impale a person at points. Now, that's not the only thing. Like, they have a lot of different weapons that they use in these type of combats, and samurai was trained in all types of these weapons. Trained in using the longbow, the kanabo, their spear-like weapon, if I can't remember the name, and the katana, which they had two of the weapon, not one, but two. And they were given a choice of which of these two. Like, they could have a long katana and a short katana. That was the usual for the standard samurai. And plus, here is the thing. Yes, I have checked out medieval knights and Japanese samurai. They have two different techniques of using their weapons. With a sword like a long sword or the one-handed sword, they were trained how to maneuver it correctly, because with a long sword, you need the correct stance or fighting style to use that sword. Many people who can just bring out a long sword and just attack didn't know what to do, because bringing up this again, with the long sword, they had to learn the right type of swing, of hitting it, the right type of thrust, and that. And even some points, I've heard of knights, because of them wearing a chainmail glove on their hand, they were able to grab the sword like this. Yes, able to grab it on the blade, or at points are able to grab the blade like this for better thrusting, if the sword was too long. But if we're talking just a normal one-handed sword, they were trained to do it like an elegant blade. Now, katana, it was always a two-handed sword at points, but some samurai have been trained to actually use one hand in combat. Now, with the katana, they have been trained in a fighting style known as, if I can remember it, kendo. Now, kendo today is usually used by using a weapon known as a bamboo stick to test out your reflexes in that. But with kendo, they are trained to strike and kill. One strike, one kill. Even if they're in a fight where their swords are clashing, they must learn how to enhance their reflexes. Because if some guy's just going to pick up a katana and attack a guy with a long sword, he's going to lose because he doesn't have the right technique. But with kendo, the right type of kendo training that was trained to the Japanese for long periods of time, because they said with the training of kendo, it would usually take 5 to 10 years of training before they would be sent into combat with the katana, because it would need a lot of training to use the katana. Now, with this, samurai have been told in stories and that have been able, when in a fight, to kill their opponent with one strike, because they aim for the points which are like the weak points, like the neck, the chest. Usually, these type of fights, some of the samurai for more honorable fights will actually fight with no armor. So, a strike to the chest would mean death. Because even the tip of the blade, like this, if you were to cut a person with this part of the blade, you would be able to cut through bone, flesh, and even organs with ease. This can do the same with the longsword or the one-handed double-sided blade, as said by the character. But if we were to say a longsword on that hand, here's the problem with the longsword. Now, if we're going to go into a longsword, it is the double edge. It has been proven that a double-edged blade in let's say in truth and in tales, as I say, the double-edged blade is both your enemy and your ally. In truth, if you're gonna swing this type of blade and you try to swing it like this, you're gonna end up cutting yourself. That's why some stories have been going around saying that some of the knights in that, when using this type of blade, would actually have to wear the chainmail, because some of them accidentally put the blade onto their chest and that, and end up cutting themselves by accident. It's also a pro, because if one side is dull, they'll be able to twist the blade into combat. But the katana, this wasn't a problem. With a katana, it was able to stay sharp for a very long time. There's been stories on a lot that the katana itself has been able to stay sharp for a long time, and it is. There have been tests on that a katana has been able to cut through 4 pig carcasses with ease and all that. Now, this is based off my knowledge of the Japanese samurai. I've studied them, I've studied the history, I've studied their combat skills and all that, and let me just say, the samurai would beat the knight. If we were to do in comparison to the classic knight, or even the knight from that time, he would still lose. Because yes, he does have the shield, which is the kite shield that was invented at that time, and they did have the one-handed, the blade, if we're going to say that. Now, if they had to fight on and on, no horses in them. But the samurai had the kanabo, and had, if we were to take away the bow and the spear and that, he did have the kanabo and the katana. With the kanabo, he could whack once, with even once, twice, or even 3 times on the shield, break the shield and break the opponent's arm, causing him to throw the shield away and fight with one hand with the sword. And let's say let's say he doesn't need it and wants to fight more honorable battle and fight with katana. Now, yes, the knight does have chainmail and sometimes even that padded like armor, which is very strong. But they didn't have that the padded armor only would go to the certain parts of the body, like this part of the body, but not the neck. Chainmail would protect the neck. Let's say after this has happened, the knight will fight. He will fight with one hand with his sword. Katana pulled, blocking with each attack, hit the neck, and break the chainmail. Because chainmail may be a strong armor, but it's not the strongest. It may be able to block an attack, but but some weapons have been able to even break through that chainmail. Being in my research in that, and even seen a few of this and that, the Asahai, which is a Zulu-like spear, short spear, was able to go through it with ease. So a katana, a weapon different from the Asahai, who wasn't really designed just like it's like low bit of like tensile strength in that. It's not like the spear. No. What I'm trying to say is the Asahai, unlike the katana, was a primitive weapon. It was designed not like layered than that, probably like how normal spears are made, but a much shorter one. That was able to go through chainmail with ease, comparing to a katana, which is a layered like weapon that's been able to cut through anything, would go through the chainmail with ease and slash through the neck, cutting the artery. Even if they went like this, still death, death, death. And even if they stabbed here, if you stab in the right area with the sword right here, you're dead, because you're not only stabbing through the flesh and nerves, and you're slashing through some veins and that, you're also stabbing right into the right into the lungs. You get blood in your lungs, you're dead, because over the time you'll suffocate and die. All the with the samurai, it's been always said by the Japanese, one strike, one kill. The samurai only needs one strike, and the knight is dead. One strike to the neck, he's dead. Because it's always the neck that go. And this guy, he has a broken arm. He's already getting exhausted because his arm's broken. He can't fight. But if we were to cancel all that, the samurai would still win. He has better weapons, he has better skill, and he's got a much stronger, like, defense. Plated armor, much stronger, has been able to take on the strongest type of weapons. The Kanabo can break through shields and break through armor with ease, even weapons. So if he used the Kanabo onto the sword, it would bend like... How would I say this? It would bend like a Chinese car would be hit with a freaking German bike. That's just a joke. Don't listen to that. But basically it would be bent, and even if he didn't, the katana would be able to go at ease. Because it may be heavy to some people, but to the Japanese, they were trained for years to use this blade, and it's basically, for them, light. And finally, skill. The Japanese samurai were more skilled. They had more skill. They had to go for 5 to 10 years learning how to use the katana correctly, how to use different fighting styles and all that. Different styles to get the weapon out of their opponent's hand, different ways to use the weapons, and all that. So, in my case, the Japanese samurai would win because they have more skill, better weapons, and a much, much better form of defense. Alright guys, this is the end of the video. If you guys liked it, please give it a like on that. And if you want a sword like this, maybe one day I'll test this weapon for you guys. This was made by Cold Steel. As you can see, it's made in Thailand. Right here. Can't really show you, but there it is. But designed in South Africa. This sword is literally, it may not be a real sword, but you hit a guy like this, you're going to end up accidentally killing him by accident. This is as tough as it gets. It is not a toy. You buy your kid this thing, you'll end up having a dead son. No, you won't get stabbed. You'll probably get hit over the head. See corners. So guys, if you want to get something like this, please go to Cold Steel. If you live in South Africa, get a Cold Steel weapon like this, and you will feel like a medieval bloody warrior. But the sword right here, I got it from a convention and that, and I don't want to talk about that one. But if you do want this type of sword, please go. They also have the same like this. They have katanas as well. Now, to end this video, please, if you do like this video, give it a like, give it a thumbs up, even though those are the same things. Subscribe if you're not, and do click the bell icon if you want to see more videos of all this. This is MMA65 signing off. Peace!